Ed's crying for.
And we're on air. I just want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight. And QM, stop your bitching. You hijacked my chat a couple weeks ago, so I'm going to hijack yours a little bit tonight. Run a little long, but tonight's topic is short-term prepping, and we'll go ahead and introduce everybody here. First, we got Ballistic Expansion, also known as Khalib.
How's it going, guys?
We've got Tactical G-String over here.
Yo, yo, yo.
Just Daniel, who said he's crashing. And that is true. Then we got Moon Foods 78.
How's it going?
Nathan's Armory.
Howdy, howdy.
And myself. So, first question here is, how do you define short-term prepping? You know, the time frame, in total. So,
Well, I would like to begin by saying, prepping is actually fairly important in this, Putin and Russia has done sanctions against America. So if you didn't stock up on caviar, cheap vodka, and white mail-order brides, you're screwed for the time being. So you should prep in advance.
Well, this will give a chance for all those mail-order brides to age, and they don't age that well, so...
Yeah, only Asian mail-order brides right now. You're cut off from
You trade them
Russia.
in. They give you a credit on your old ones.
Do you? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like the credit deal.
No, that's totally wrong. Your mail-order bride, when she finally trades up from you, gets your house and half your crap.
Oh, yeah.
Great deal for them.
yeah. Oh, and I should have brought this up before I started asking questions, but the reason I actually wanted to do this topic is you may have heard about this little town in Ohio called Toledo. I'm not sure if they're still going through the issue, but they had an algae bloom in Lake Erie. Kind of surprising. I didn't think anything could live in Lake Erie, even algae. But they had this algae bloom that happened, and it got into or was really near their water intake for the city water. And since this algae cannot be boiled out of the water and is toxic, and it actually gets more toxic if you boil the water, they had a water ban. Nobody could drink, shower,
Can't even wash your clothes.
anything. Yeah, you couldn't even wash your clothes. So
I imagine it's... How are you going to kill or take care of that problem that's that widespread, and it's already in the system? That's what I don't understand. It's already in people's pipes, and that's
Now,
what's...
I'm surprised by the not boiling it thing, but I know that the city certainly can't boil that much water.
Well, it concentrates the toxin.
toxin.
That's the problem.
Oh, the toxin is boil-proof.
Yeah, it makes
Ah.
it worse. It concentrates it and makes it more lethal.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So I don't understand how you can clean a problem like that up. I'm sure there's, obviously there's ways, but don't you know what I mean? It's
Well,
already
they'll have
through the
to
system.
wait. They'll have to, neutralize that, and then have everybody run their taps for a few hours.
Yeah, right, to clear
Until
it.
the water's clear.
Well,
And then it's all
originally-
going to run through the
maybe.
septic system, and
yeah.
Yeah.
There was, like any situation, like a hurricane coming into Florida, all of a sudden you see people going out all of a sudden and emptying the shelves of, everything they need. Well, the same thing was happening in Toledo. People were going out and buying every case of bottled water or any type of
for 100
bottled water
miles.
they could get. Yeah, for hundreds of miles, well, over 100 miles all around.
Yep.
Have
So
you
not
heard
only
about
did it affect
anybody getting together to get them water, bring them water, besides the government?
Red Cross did, the government did, and I think there was one other organization that did. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure there's lots of
Yeah.
agencies.
I think it was the National Guard was
I
was
see it
there
every
with their
time.
big, huge tankers for potable water.
Everybody comes together
Is it potable or
to get
potable?
water.
What's the correct term?
Potable or potable? I think it's
Potable
potable.
or
I don't know.
potable?
Well, that's why I came up with this idea, because I was thinking about that. And this week in Green Bay, because they've got issues with some pipes for water supply. They had to actually close down one of the two mains that feeds not only the city of Green Bay, but the surrounding I can't forget the name of the towns that surround the city, but
And I want to say that people have kind of a misnomer. They see giant water towers and think, oh, there's a giant tower full of water, and that means we have water for a month or two. But it's not true. That water tower really doesn't, hold the water that you're drinking forever. Its water is actually from the point where it's pulled from a lake, typically, or an aquifer. It's then sent to a water treatment plant and then goes to your house. So, I mean, it doesn't take more than a day or two for the entire water system to get a contaminant in it. It reminds me of the movie The Crazies, where they all got contaminated in under a week. That's normal for a water system if it gets contaminated. Within a week, it's all bad.
Isn't those towers too? They're designed just to create the pressure too. So
Yeah,
that's
it's more like they
correct.
just pump it up into the tower, and that gives it the constant pressure to flow downhill then.
Mhm.
because it's kind of cool. We used to actually have water from one of those huge towers here until my stupid village decided that they're going to go to the city water.
Gargoyles live on the top of those towers.
So that's why this
Jersey.
question came up. And now that Daniel's back, what is your definition of short term?
My definition of short term is 30 days.
That's what I was.
This is 30 days.
Yeah,
Okay?
2 weeks.
I was gonna say a month.
I was going to say 2 weeks minimum,
Yeah,
but
2
30
weeks.
days is better.
Well, there's all sorts of emergencies that are shorter than 30 days. But, there's too many variations, to certainly discuss, so.
2 weeks is pretty. It's what I've seen. Like
Katrina
when there was
Katrina
an
took
ice storm
about
here
2
in New
weeks
England.
to get everyone out. It took about
And-
2 weeks to get everyone out of the Katrina area.
There was no power for 2 weeks with the ice storms back in the 90s and stuff in New England and some places. That sucks too, but it's winter. But then again, you still have water from outside. But that's a whole different type of prepping then. Cause
You also have no heat.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to make sure you have a wood stove.
Yeah, I lost power for 5 days.
Most
during
widespread
Hurricane Sandy.
emergencies, most hurricane or weather-related emergencies typically knock an area out for at least a week to 2 weeks, typically. So that's just normal emergency. That's not something really bad happening. That's just something that randomly happens in areas where things like that happen, like near the coasts and stuff like that. So we're not even talking about, anything out of the ordinary, like a sickness or a pandemic or something like that.
How did Hawaii fare with that double hurricane situation? All I saw was it was about to hit them, and
It got wiped out. There's no
Did
more
it?
Hawaii.
yeah, they're gone now. No more.
49 states, baby.
49.
49 states.
Swept all those gun laws right out to sea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we got this. 2 weeks is the minimum I would do, and that's actually what I do is plan for 2 weeks. So
He said doo-doo.
yes, I did. I was hoping somebody would catch that.
Then you get to it.
How old are we?
I hang out with a 4 and a 9-year-old, sorry.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, that says it all right there.
They're bad
Yeah.
influences on me.
Good on you.
So 2 weeks is the absolute minimum anybody would suggest for a short-term prep, and a month would be.
The high end.
Well, you don't have to get like.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to prep for 2 to 4 weeks if you can.
Well,
You
the
got
other
to start
part of-
somewhere. It starts with 1 week, and then you get to 2 weeks, and then you prep what you can, and you try to get the basics to even if you could take 2 weeks and stretch it to 3 probably if you knew you had to.
The other reason for 30 days is if you unexpectedly decide that you want to assist your neighbors in this 2-week disaster, you have the ability to do that, not just sit there well-fed, hydrated, and watch them not.
That's what who did that bad voodoo there, Richard. He's been
Yeah.
giving water out.
That is That is very true. That's also a good point. You know, and I've got a 2-week supply in my house because that's, you know, all the stuff I've ever gone through. The max has been just a few days, so I figured 2 weeks is plenty for me. Then again, if it goes on longer than that, then I'm screwed.
How do you, like, what do you? I guess to get a little specific, but what does that mean for you? 2 weeks, like in terms of, like, do you have a certain? Do you count water gallons or whatever, like you need for every 3 days, and like what does that mean? You got
for me,
14
that
cans.
means having enough water, and that's storageable. You know, bottled water that I can cook with. Drink, of course, and do light cleanup. But I'm hoping that for cleanup it'll be very limited use of water, so I don't think that's ever going to use up a whole lot of water.
And
Worst case, comes to worst, I eat out of what I'm cooking in.
the other part of water is water to simply, if you don't have water, your waste system is probably still working to where you can simply use water to flush your toilets.
Right.
Yeah, you
And I
can use the
do-
bad water to flush
I
the
do
toilet.
have water sources. Yeah, I do have water sources relatively near me, so you can always
But
get
of
the
course-
water to
Only if you
boil
have
to.
more water than you need to drink.
Yeah, that's
And-
exactly right.
And hygiene.
Here's
Yep.
Except for the toxic water, the toxic algae water.
you can flush the toilet with the toxic algae water. Don't drink it. So there's something I'd like to mention is if any of y'all have a pressure cooker, one of the tricks with that is you can use your outside grill to heat something up in the pressure cooker to get it to where it's hot and the pressure's built up, and then you have a cardboard box full of towels and you just stick it in there and it'll actually, like an oven, keep it hot and cook whatever's in there. So if you have something that would require normally 2-3 hours of cooking in the oven, you can use a pressure cooker for that. So it's just a trick I read about once. Not to
That's
mention
cool.
Canning peaches is pretty cool. I like doing that, and other canning other things.
It's kind of an
Yeah,
interesting-
food. That's food is a thing here, and of course, fresh food, the stuff that's gonna go bad in your refrigerator if you lose power for that long. Those are always things that you want to eat first, and then you move on to the canned and dried foods. So having enough of that, and worst case scenario, I do have ramen, enough to last me a month.
Yeah, storing enough ramen to last for a month is doable on anyone's budget.
Exactly, it's such a cheap thing, and it'll give you the carbs for energy. Won't give you a whole lot of really good nutrients, but it'll get you the energy you need to get stuff done.
Or if you'd be better off eating rice, though.
I have a question for the whole panel.
Rice gets tiring after a
Yeah.
while, though, especially if it's plain.
And ramen
Pack
doesn't.
up some beans.
The panel question is
Dried
not
fruit.
what you're going to eat, but how are you going to heat it, the energy you're going to use to boil that water, to heat that food, etc.
Yeah.
Fire.
I got those pocket rockets. I have that pocket rocket with that
Okay.
fuel for the camping fuel, and I did do a video on how many boils I got out of it. I got like 14 meals out of it,
Mhm.
like spaghetti and heating up
Right.
other things.
So
So
that's like a week. If
yeah,
you
and I
cook
got a
it
couple of those, and plus I got a wood stove.
Right.
Not, so if I had to, just
Okay.
use that.
I have multiple camping things. I always keep one spare tank out there by my grill, and if it did come down to that, I would not activate my grill. I would hook the hose up to my little Coleman stove and run it off that thing because it's more efficient. Key is not being wasteful.
Oh, yeah,
Yep, I've got.
you can get one of those, the big 5-gallon or however heavy they are, the regular size propane tanks, and you can get a cooking stove attachment for them.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, if you have one barbecue, tank full, that's going to last the month.
Oh, yeah.
And you could use it every day, 3 times a day.
Yeah, if you just were doing it on a little stove, not the grill. Now, one thing you can do is if you don't have a grill or anything, you can break your furniture apart, the wood parts in your furniture, and then you get a shopping cart. It's got to be a metal shopping cart from your local grocery store. You got a grill.
There you go.
I guess the metal shopping cart being the key to that.
The ghetto white trash shopping cart grill.
Well, doesn't everybody have even a crap pizza grill kicking around that they used once and then it was free from Budweiser? Or, I mean, I got all kinds of grills like that.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
one from the little black circle grills that is made for like charcoal and stuff.
Yeah, charcoal
I got
grill.
one.
That's what I only use charcoal. So
It's a
that's how I
Coors
plan
Light.
to do. I was gonna say that's how I plan to do. If the situation heating up is on a charcoal grill. I've got lighter fluid and
But it's like a
enough
one
charcoal.
with the charcoal, right? Isn't it? You kind of would go through a bit of that, I would think.
So
But normally a bag will last me a year, and I grill out about once a week. So having an extra bag of that will last quite a while. And
Mhm.
You guys
Hold on.
can,
Dano, what's that? What's
Yeah.
that Amish
what's that time bomb?
contraption you got there? What is that thing?
You
It's
churn
called-
butter.
this is called a Kelly kettle, and it comes in. This is the medium size. It comes in a larger size as well as a smaller size. And this main compartment here is a double-walled container, which will boil water. And on the inside, there's a chimney. And on the inside of that chimney, you take this two components. I'll give you a little quick demo here. You kind of cross them together like that. Okay, you take this, you put it on top of the chimney. Now you have a heat source and a bowl that comes with it to heat your food. I realize that doesn't show all.
So what you're saying is you're boiling water, you're sanitizing your water at the same time that you're...
Yes.
using it to cook. Yep.
That's pretty awesome.
Now at the bottom here, you can see this is where you create your fire, down in here.
All right.
You just had
Chimney.
a little
How
hole
does it
right here
stay lit? Oh, okay.
to get air in.
It's like a sterno can.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could you use
No, it's not a sterno can. What you do is you simply go and try to get a better picture of this.
put like coals of fire in there?
There we go. Is you can put, and I've used this several times, little twigs underneath bushes, little tiny things. And what you do is you get the base going the way you would any fire, and then once you get it going, you feed it through the top of the chimney. Oops. Additional pieces just simply go right inside here. So once you're done with your little, pencil lead-sized sticks,
Oh, the water's on the outside.
this is a double-walled container again. This
I
right
thought the
here.
water was...
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah, thank you, because I was thinking the opposite. I'm
I was
thinking
like, oh, your
water-
water's gonna taste awful.
Steam
Can you show us the top? Can you show us the inside of it?
Well, I can, if you can see it. Again, it looks like
I
a
thought it
chimney,
was heat that was creating the heat.
except
That's
the
thing.
inner wall is a smaller diameter than the outer wall. Therefore, it will hold just over
Okay.
4 cups of water.
I see.
Okay.
And this little pot right here, this is just for storage, but just put the water into here, and literally, it's done because the water will just start to percolate outside the spout. And then there's a little handle right here that you just lift it up and off the fire. But I have this, I also have those little propane things like you have, Cello.
Yep.
I have like 30 of those.
Wow. Yeah.
But this is my if I also have stored water, but if my stored water does not last, or let's say I decide to share with my neighbors, I also have a nearby river that that boiling is only one step of purification, but this in combination with a Berkey filter, charcoal filter that I have, should be able to make the water drinkable.
And I mean, this is the thing too. I mean, you can buy those 24 packs of bottled water for like $2.79 at Lowe's and stuff.
Oh. And I do.
Yeah, and if you just have 4 or 5 of those, I mean, think of how many bottled waters that is. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's 150 16-ounce waters. You could drink 4 a day for a month and not run out.
I have 27 of those things.
Cases?
Yeah, from
Well,
the
that's awesome.
Family Dollar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
they're
then maybe
$3.
think about that. What do you have into it? 60 bucks?
Yeah,
Not even.
$3 a case.
That's
So
great.
so they like when I'm at the store occasionally they'll run a sale where 3-liter bottles of Ozarka water are 50 cents a bottle. I mean,
Nice, yeah.
3 liters, that's like over a gallon of water for 50
Oh, yeah.
cents.
Yeah,
I
that's a
do
good
believe
deal.
in the
Right.
diversification of prepping. I have both bottled water. I have this contraption here, and I also, and I also carry purification tablets. I have a little bit of everything. I don't believe in relying on just one thing because then you have what's called a single point of failure. One thing breaks, it's a house of cards.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can,
Yep.
well, especially if you're
I
home.
got filters and I got some of those pump filters and I got one of those water straws to carry.
Yep.
I got other things.
I got that Berkey Sport bottle. That thing's pretty cool. It can filter 300 times. You can fill
That's
it.
pretty nice for like on the go.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
$15, and it's pretty efficient.
Yeah, I need to get one of those.
And
The nice.
you keep it empty. It's so lightweight,
Actually got a nice system here. If I don't lose power, that's the main thing. But say, the main burst or something on the water, I'm going to be without water for a week. I can rely on a well. I actually have a well. I still pay to have the well, a permit.
Well,
to well.
takes power.
But I said if the power doesn't fail.
Oh, sorry.
Well, that's
Why
why I
don't
get
you-
well. You
so-
should get
so-
you know.
So, Quark, have you thought about buying a little cheap generator?
That's the one thing I do need to get as a generator. That's the one thing, and I don't want to go cheap. I want to go, a halfway decent one so I can actually.
I mean, if
You're
you're
quiet when, because they suck when they're loud.
if you're okay going with a Chinese product for basically $300, you can get something that will run your well and your refrigerator.
Yeah, you can get a nice Honda generator. They're
I live in part of the country, so does Dano, so does Jello and Moon Food, where winter is not
Minor.
a place where you want to go without heat.
It's,
Absolutely.
I live in a place when it's wintertime. You put on a coat and maybe some long johns.
Yeah. Yeah, when you talk about a day where the high temperature is negative 17, you definitely don't want to go without heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Texas winters are mild in comparison to everywhere else.
Yeah, I went without heat for
Minus
5
17.
days.
I mean, it could be 20 degrees outside, and if you're exposed to 20 degrees over a long enough period of time without any heat supply, you will start to experience hypothermia.
Yeah, and this is going to be the opposite for Nathan though, and for Ballistic in the summer. You guys want to think about that to run your air conditioning if you're getting those temperatures where it's
Oh yeah, we lose
100
power.
degrees. What's
It's gonna be-
90%?
It's
All
going
right.
to be 90. It's going to be 99 for the high tomorrow. So I mean, if we lose AC, it's miserable. You can so easily get dehydrated.
yeah, our AC
Not only
cannot
dehydrated, you don't go into dehydrated, you go into heat stroke, which is life-threatening. So you got more to think about. And you can't go down and say you're next to a stream. You can't go down to the stream and constantly get water when it's 99 degrees, at 90% freaking humidity. So as soon as you start going out there and start lugging back 5 gallons worth of water a trip or 10 gallons, you're basically carrying around 80 pounds of water.
I think it's also a good illustration of how all of us are pampered as compared to 100 plus years ago. When there was no air conditioning, when water wasn't always at the faucet.
Yep.
I mean, Nathan, imagine if you had no air conditioning and you lived in Texas.
I'd move.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Actually,
how many from Texas would no longer want to live in Texas?
I'm going to go off topic. It wasn't until air conditioning became something that normal person could get for their house that the West really started to popularize these hot, warm places. Texas, California. It wasn't until air conditioning was, cheap enough to be put in the house that's where you started to see the population boom out there.
And ease of access to water.
Yep.
That explains all of Las Vegas.
Yes.
So I heard this little tip, and you guys can correct me on this or if it's wrong. It's not a tip, but let's say you're out there in the elements and you're down to, 6 ounces of water and it's hot out there, they say it's best to just down that 6 ounces than trying to stretch it across the whole day.
Correct.
Is that correct? Because you'll just dehydrate. You're going to be dehydrated all day. At least you have a chance of getting some hydration at once.
That is correct, because you're hydrating yourself for a short period of time. If you're just taking a sip, so your mouth isn't parched, taking that 6 ounces and stretching it out into 12 sips throughout the day, it's not going to do you any good. But at least the 6 ounces right off is going to give you a little bit of time, so maybe you get water.
And if you're at
That's not what they do in the movies. They give you like a capful every 3 days.
And if you're out at sea, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, say you got yourself a gallon of water, you can drink, maybe whatever, like 7-8 ounces of that water and replace it with seawater, because you've diluted that seawater so much, and then you're actually getting electrolytes and the salt from the sea. I've heard that is actual fact.
I'm not sure about that, but you couldn't keep doing that, because then you just end up with seawater.
Well, no, you're not just keep doing it, but if you've got a gallon of water, you can down
Stretch it out.
6 or 7 gulps of it and refill that with the seawater. Now you still got a gallon, and you've gotten 5%.
And then you're getting, salt back in your system anyway, which you are losing with
it's good. It acts as like a Gatorade or something. Of course, they say you can't have more than 20% seawater, but I saw that on a survival gig. So that's interesting, because that's whenever I see these movies and they're out at sea and they only got so much water, it's like that kind of puts you in that scenario. I hate that whole thing.
You gotta eat your friends.
See, hate it.
Now, I am going to say this, and this is something I started looking into and I started playing around with, and if anybody out there's got, 1, the space, and 2, the ability to get one of those large Fresnel lenses. You can get them from Projection Televisions. Mitsubishi, if you find a Mitsubishi projection television, those are supposedly the best. You can actually cook, boil water, etc. using one of those lenses. You gotta bounce it off a mirror, which also comes in a projection TV that you can use. And there's ways to do it. If you do it wrong, you're gonna break the mirror or burn a hole through the bottom of your pot.
You literally just aim the beam at the water itself on the top.
No.
Of the pot.
No, because it's gonna go straight through the water. The water does not have any effect on
you gotta
it.
hit the cylinder then. Yeah, is what you're saying. You have to hit the vessel.
You have to bounce it back up.
Okay.
And you don't want the focal point, hitting there. You want it to be warm, especially with these, spot lenses. So linear lens, there's differences, and there are definitely videos on YouTube to check out. But if you got the ability, it's something you got to stay by, because the sun moves throughout the day. So you gotta stay by it. And you got to be able to, adjust, your cooking surface and your focal point.
We're getting
with your lens.
pretty deep into the survival here. If you're needing to bounce sunlight off a mirror just to heat your, to sanitize your water or whatever.
But it's
obviously
but hold on, that's something very efficient. I mean, you could store that big lens in your attic with a mirror, and in an emergency situation, you climb up there, and if the sun's out, you don't have to burn anything. On top of that, think about the advantage of your neighbors don't smell smoke at your house after a week and a half and go, oh, wait, Cork's self-sufficient. Let's go there.
What about rainwater? Did you guys really just drink rainwater straight down from the sky? I mean, in this day and age?
That's
boil that
why
too.
you would still filter and boil.
Okay, because, there's nasty crap in that.
You're going to be filtering and boiling anyway, so why not just put that in your slide?
You think it depends, too, on where you live? Because, obviously if you're in a city, the air's going to be a lot thicker with.
I think the air.
Where do you think the pollution goes?
Yeah, it all goes to everybody.
Yeah.
It's going up there and dissipating, so it's an even dose for the whole country.
We're smoking China every day.
Oh, yeah, right?
Yeah, and I want to bring this up, too, about the Fresnel lens, because I was going to bring this up.
I just love this lens, man.
Yeah, about water. You guys know how I like destroying 2-liter bottles.
Yes.
I tried to melt a 2-liter bottle with Fresnel lens. Guess what? Doesn't happen. It goes right through the bottle. The light beam goes right through it. It only melts the label. It goes right through. It will not do anything. And it does heat up the water, but that's because it's just in that area where there's heat around it. It will not actually.
The UV rays, that's probably a way better way to sanitize with just the UV rays, and that's a high concentration right there.
Yeah, it'll boil the water. I mean, I've done this in a beer bottle where, it'll go right through the beer bottle, and it'll boil the water inside in about a minute.
Yeah. And Cello, so you mentioned there is such a thing as a UV water filter. Solar water filter.
Yep.
Okay.
It's like a tanning bed for your bottle.
Right. You try to get it as flat as possible, or nothing bigger than like a liter bottle, and let it sit in the sun for like minimum of an hour or something like that. So the UV rays kill the bacteria. I've seen they sell like packets that looks like this. Actually, I happen to have this bubble wrap type stuff here, but kind of let me see here. Let me get out of this stupid thing. It's like this, but it's full of water. So it's keeping the surface area so thin, and it does it very quickly. And then this whole thing fills out of water. Could probably make something. See, I could make it. Here we go. Keep this for survival. Bubble wrap. All the cells are connected in this one.
Yeah, but I'm the type of person here, that I'm going to use the stuff I have stockpiled as a last resort. I'm going to try to do everything I can.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, if you got the time to do hey, today we're taking this water, we don't have to use our stocks.
Yep.
And then deal with it.
Because, what happens if my 2-week supply of water needs to be run for 3 weeks? It's a way to do it. That's why I'm bringing this up, too. You don't always have to rely on your stocks for stuff. Food, I'm going to be running my stock, but for water, I don't have to rely on that. Yeah, you don't have to. Oh, and excuse me. One other thing you can do too, if you need water, you're not near a water source. You've got like a 30-gallon to a 55-gallon water heater.
Yeah, that always freaked me out
If you get canned food, there's canned fruit and food. There's always the option to get it in water instead of the syrup. So maybe
I do that.
You can get like pineapples and drink the can too while you're at it.
I mean, we do get water from our food, like you said, pineapple. I love prepping that stuff. I love like the rings, pineapple rings.
Yeah,
frickin' delicious.
And I will say this, and people, this can go for both short-term and long-term prepping. One way to do it without having to put out a whole lot of money right up front is you're going grocery shopping, and you know that you need, 2 cans of soup. I'm just using soup as an example here. Go ahead and buy yourself 3 cans. This way you've got 1 extra.
I'm telling you right now, yep, you need to put that prep then in a separate area.
Exactly.
I put it in because you don't want that up in your cupboard looking at it. Simply having it, I put them in 5-gallon buckets and cover it. That way it is totally out of sight and mind. I don't even know right now what's in a lot of these 5-gallon buckets, but that I have. I got 6 of them, but you don't want it in the same area as your regular food because you won't. It'll discourage you from prepping.
I totally agree because the temptation will be too great to dip into that and say, well, I don't feel like going to the store. I'll just grab some of my prep.
Exactly.
The other thing,
replace it next time, and then you don't replace it.
The other thing I suggest, and I know, Cello, you don't do it, is to keep, I do it on a spreadsheet, but I also have a hard copy printout, is an inventory of what's in those containers. Now, I don't use 5-gallon buckets. I use those little large Tupperware containers. Like
tote. Those big tote.
Yeah, with a lid on it, so it doesn't get dusty and dirty inside. And then I label it number 1, number 2, number 3.
Sacks, get out of there, and you want to.
I have a spreadsheet with everything that's in tote number 1, everything that's in tote number 2, and then, then it's broken down by category category from food to security to miscellaneous, to medications and things like that.
Toilet paper is a big prep too. Everybody overlooks it. I'm best on that, and and I got boxes of tissue.
And a way to conserve water is to every other time go from dry to a child's wipe, because they're already pre-moistened. I mean, when water is short, that's one way to extend the water.
I want to say this too, because we're going to talk about prepping food. The one thing that, out of sight, out of mind mentality brings up, though, is having food that has gone past the expiration date, use by date, that's spoiled at some point. So I don't like having that out of sight, out of mind mentality myself.
Quirk, did you hear about the inventory sheet? That includes the expiration dates.
Yes, I like to be able to cycle.
Let's be realistic here, guys. We only have to kind of go through your preps like every few months, or let's say even at worst every 6 months to check it out.
I mean,
and if something's getting close, you're gonna know, because it's definitely gonna last a year.
Either on the computer I'm talking to you on right now, or going to the very first tote, there's a list of everything in there, including their expiration dates. I mean, it's not just what's in there; it's how many. If it's bandages, what's the size of the bandages? What's the type of bandage? If there's an expiration date or a best by date, what is it? I mean, you're absolutely right, Quirk, because you can really sink yourself by thinking, oh yeah, I'm good to go, and all of a sudden you bought something 2 months ago, but it expires in 3 months.
Yeah, I will say food does keep past the expiration date, but you're talking about, say you've got, canned beans, and it could still be good to eat 6 months after the expiration date or a year after the expiration date, but you got to be really careful when you do that, because if it goes bad, it'll start bulging the lid out, and I don't want to even have to face that. So I keep mine on a separate shelf in the cupboard, and that stuff is okay. I just ate, a can of
cupboard rotation is a wise idea. Meaning, buy what you eat and eat what you buy, but just rotate the front to the back.
Yep, that's exactly what I do. I ate a can of soup, so I go get another can of soup, and I put it in the back, and so it's constantly cycling through. I take that can it's from on the prepping shelf down, and etc.
Well, I'm looking right now at buying. I went to a website here, the Epicenter, because I'm pretty sure my MREs are older than 5 years old now, and they were not very good to begin with. So I'm going to toss those. I need to replace them.
But you should eat one live on camera.
And see if I survive?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, if I live through this MRE and don't get food poisoning, I'll be on the Just Dano chat. If I'm not here, that means I'm in the hospital. But the thing that I'm looking at the Epicenter here, and what's cool about that website and some other ones is, instead of buying just the MREs where you just get a box of 12, they'll let you actually go through and buy individual things. It's not as cost efficient, but then again, you're not buying the toilet paper pack. You're not getting the Tabasco sauce you don't eat. You're not getting the heater that you may not use or already have. So I'm just looking at it. I'm getting the exact things I want. Like, I'm getting 10 beef stew entrees and then 10 other entrees all mixed up that I'm of my choosing, because beef stew is my favorite.
Yeah, I love beef stew. That's why I got stocked. Even if you just stock up on cans of that, it's so good.
No, the problem with the beef, because I'm going on a hunt, I need to carry MRE food in my pack for just ease of eating, ease of use, and I don't want to carry my my pocket stove thing, because the canister weighs a lot and you got to have the pot and everything. So it's easier for me just to throw an MRE entree in with the peanut butter and the crackers for the side. The entree and the heating thing you add water to, and then just empty the water out and throw it in a Ziploc when I'm done. But I can eat a hot meal in the middle of the day while I'm out there moving around.
It keeps like up here in bear country, you gotta store your food in a weird, up a tree or something. And if MREs, you can just, they're not gonna give off
they're
odor.
sealed and they're not going to give off odor. Yeah, good point.
Pretty good.
But I mean, the nice thing, that's another thing you want to think about. If all you have is rice and beans that's shelf stable for a long time, you need stuff that you could take with you. That you need a balanced set of food. You need the cheap stuff like the rice and beans you can cook and make, but you also need a certain amount of the canned stuff to live off of. And if you have some MREs with some heaters that you've stripped down, so that if you have to go grab a backpack and go on a day or 2 day hike, you have food to take with you that you don't need to bring a can opener for. You got to think about these different options that you have.
I'll tell you, and that's just a side little silly thing too. But I see a lot of pineapple that you have the pop top on it. You can just use your finger, but some of them you need a can opener. It's like if there's the choice, obviously get the pop top one, because that's going to save you from having to deal with if you don't have any kind of a can opener.
And Swiss Army knife.
Some people don't have it. Some people don't.
Hold on. So
you can rub that on.
Get a cheap Swiss Army knife to keep with your backpack or bag. You can also, I have a couple of them somewhere where I'm the little handheld military. I was at a military shop and I bought 3 of those little handheld can openers. I've never actually used them, but my Leatherman has a can opener on it. My Swiss Army knife has a can opener. Actually,
that's us.
I don't even own an electric can opener. I have a regular one.
Yeah, I don't.
And did you know that you can open a can without a can opener? All you need is cement to rub the top on?
Yeah, actually, you rub the bottom on it, actually.
Oh.
But you can either way. You can do the top or the bottom. The bottom's usually thinner, they said, so it's easier to do the bottom. If it's not like a lip, it's curled under now. They don't have the 2 caps anymore. So the bottom's thinner, and you just rub it till you break through.
I did not know that. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw a YouTube video on it once where a guy's like, I'm going to show you open this can using cement. He just rubs it on the ground till it heats enough of the metal away to pull the lid open.
Yep.
And I'm going to go ahead and...
What about metal shards in your food?
For anyone out there
you don't go through.
Who's interested in getting into prepping or learning more about prepping, and a YouTube channel to consider looking at is Southern Prepper 1.
Oh, yeah.
One, not ONE.
Yep.
He's been doing this for years and is far more resources than I will ever have. And we all don't, just to be a prepper doesn't mean that, that you have to have all this stuff. It's not about stuff. It's about knowledge, information, and the tools to get the job done. And in this case, food is part of the tools.
I want to mention Southern Prepper 1 was where I discovered the Mormon canneries from.
Yep.
So most people don't know this, but in the Mormon religion, it's a tenet that you're supposed to keep 1 year of food at your disposal. So what they do is, on the major cities where they have a Mormon present, they have a cannery. There's one in Dallas. And you go there, and they'll let anyone, Mormon or not, go in, and they got stuff like just bags of rice, bags of beans, bags of sugar, honey, freeze-dried potatoes. Everything in there is in bulk, and they'll sell some of it. I got number 10 cans of flour that I keep in the cabinet. They're good for 10 years. The the pancake mix there is terrific. There's just all these things that they have, and they sell it at cost pretty much. So they're not doing it for profit. They're doing it to get food out to their members and other people who want to do it. Because the way they see it is, if they sell to other people, they're not going to be going after the members because they know that the members have it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, some of them, you can it yourself and stuff.
Oh, yeah, they'll have days when you can go in there and actually take like a bag of, something, and you can open the bag and put it in a can and seal the can with the little thing in there, and they charge a different price for that. But it's really, like it's $2 for a can of flour, and that's cheaper than what I can buy a bag of flour for. And it's in a metal can.
And their food is potentially better quality.
It's good high quality, and they list how long each thing will last in what container, and it's an easy way to basically go in, and because most people don't know where to start, and if you walk in there and go, hey, look, I need food for emergency that'll last me 2 months, the nice lady down at the cannery will be like, okay, here's what you need.
Well,
You know,
that's
it
why
should
it's
help
also
put it
good.
together.
Knock out some big things too. I mean, you get a bunch of those cans, you're knocking out a huge amount. That's in for cheap.
It's also good to hit up a Barnes and Noble and maybe grab a few books.
Yeah.
That'll
Well, I was
you know,
going to
based
bring
on
that up.
surviving 30 days or
Yeah, you know, that's something that I think is so kind of looked over as having a book on how to survive. You know, and now you've got the knowledge at your fingertips if you need it.
And more than just first aid, I mean, there's a book, I can't remember, I want to say it's called What to Do When There's No Doctor. And it's about kind of like third world medicine. When there is no doctor available and you have a real emergency and there's no way, you know, within a day or two of getting them to a doctor, what do? I mean, because we're all accustomed to first aid just means keeping them alive for maybe a half hour until the ambulance gets there and EMTs arrive. Now, what do you do when it's a half hour in the day?
Point when you need to like chop a limb off in order for somebody.
Exactly. I mean, not that I'm looking to chop a limb off, but you know, uncontrollable diarrhea and you're dehydrating. What do you do?
Yeah, I do want to bring this up. One more thing about food, real quick, and that is keep a variety so you don't get tired of eating the same thing. So if all you had on hand was rice and beans, and you're getting sick or tired of eating rice and beans, so you decide not to eat. You're not eating a whole lot. You could actually end up causing yourself a lot of issues that way too. So keep a little variety.
Oh.
And another thing, this was from Southern Prepper 1. He went on a test where he was testing surviving on his food, and he's like, man, I never realized how much comfort food that I needed and stuff. You know, like dried apple slices and chips and stuff. And, candy bars, things like that our diets were so used to eating all these random tasty comfort foods that if we just go strictly to eating rice and beans, it's like a system shock. You have to kind of wean yourself off of being able to eat all sorts of crazy things. You know what I'm saying?
Now we're talking now we're really into like long term. Because another thought I had, is let's say you do have a 2-month incident. I mean, you can go without food for at least 2 weeks without really getting yourself messed up. It's the water that's more important than the food.
Well, that is true, but
I know
water's an easy thing. Water's pretty easy to figure out. You just need to figure out how much you need and get it. Whereas the food thing, people are, a lot of people just approach it, hey, I got plenty of rice and beans. I went and bought bulk bags of rice and beans. And they don't really think about all the other little things that, because think of, and I mean, have any of y'all ever watched, I watched Naked and Afraid, I'm now addicted to that show.
Oh, yeah,
but, they'll be on an island and they have access to coconuts, right? So they're eating coconuts and they're eating these apples that they found on this island. They lost 20 to 30 pounds each in a 21-day period, and they were eating coconuts and apples, and it was because they didn't have any protein in their diet. They just couldn't survive on carbs alone. So I never realized that. I thought, oh, well, they're eating. They shouldn't be losing weight. They're getting energy through them.
Yeah,
but their body needs a balance.
They need to eat bugs. They're not eating enough bugs.
They're not eating bugs, But we're herbivores, but we can't survive on, we need proteins in our system. Otherwise, basically, it doesn't matter how many carbs you eat, your muscles start getting eaten if you don't eat any protein. So, you cannot live on ramen alone or rice and beans you actually can, because there's enough protein in rice and beans combined.
Right.
Well, the protein's coming from the beans, not the rice.
Yeah, no protein in rice. But
the reason I brought this up.
Hold on. I was going to say that I need to research it more, but every culture that has a low protein diet eats some form of beans with like rice or tofu or something else, and the two combined somehow make the essential amino acids to replace the protein. So you can't eat beans. You can't eat beans alone, but if you eat rice and beans, it is a meat replacement combined. somehow.
The reason I bring this up about food and having a variety, so you're not just sick and tired and decide not to eat, because if you need that energy to, go to your water source and get your water, and you just don't have that energy, you're not going to get, water, and then you're going to end up being dehydrated, then it's just a downhill, spiral from there. I mean, even in a short
Hydration's
week,
key. You get
dehydrated.
dehydrated.
In a short-term period of a month, you could, really seriously affect your health that way.
Well, what is it? The rule of three? 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and
3 weeks without food.
3 weeks without
And there's
food.
another 3 as well.
Yeah.
There's 3 minutes without oxygen.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh yeah, no. Well, there's a fourth one too.
Oh, there's another one. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
and
I
none of
don't
these are
remember.
hard and fast, of course, because you can totally dehydrate yourself if you're in the Sahara Desert. It won't take 3 days to die.
Right.
You'll be off way ahead of that. But again, it's one of those things where you kind of have to give this a little forethought and research it and stuff. But again, it's just trust me. The people, I know this because a lot of people, when they prep their survival food, they focus on the necessity to live. Rice and beans will keep me alive. That's all I need. No, you're not going to be happy.
Mm-mm.
Actually get other stuff you would like to eat. Think about it like this. Do an experiment. If in your stuff, could you survive on it a week? Would you eat that stuff for a week? And if you would be sick of it in under a week, you certainly need to expand your variety somewhat, which is easy to do.
Even with rice and beans, after 6 months of rice and beans, you will be suffering from malnutrition, even though you're eating 2 times a day. Yeah, I mean, so you will still suffer and possibly die from malnutrition, even though you're eating. So it's not just that you eat, 3 hots and a cot.
6
It's
months.
what you're eating.
Yeah.
Not
Also,
that right.
another thing that a lot of people overlook are spices and salt. One, you need salt to live.
Yeah.
That's a key thing. You should always have excess salt on hand, a lot more than you'd ever think you're ever going to need. But two are spices, because if you are eating the same things, even in rotation, maybe you want to change up the flavor so you have some spices on hand. Maybe some oregano or thyme or something allspice. Just something on hand in your house that can change up the flavor of the food you're eating. Just because you're down to 3 choices. It's been 3 weeks, and now you're down to 3 choices of food. I can either have rice and beans or whatever, some ramen or something else. Now you've got.
I mean, who doesn't have an abundance of spices? And I have so many different spices.
Most American assholes have a cupboard of spices, so that's usually not an issue. But I was going to say,
But I'm going to say this: you may have the dry spices, but you want to know how if you don't use them a whole lot, they do lose their flavor.
yeah, that's true.
But they're also more potent too. I mean, they can be more intense when they're dry.
But they
One thing I was
lose their. I've got this huge rack of spices that prior to open up this thing of cinnamon up there, it's going to be like eating dust. Because it hasn't been, it was open once, 10 years ago and wasn't used since.
Okay, so check your spices, make sure they're fresh. Good point.
Yeah.
The thing I was going to say is, a couple years ago I was buying rice and beans, and I went to my boss. I was like, "Yeah, I'm buying this rice, but it's like, I don't know, it's really crappy rice from Walmart." She's like, "You're buying rice from Walmart?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And she's Vietnamese, and she's like, "You got to go down to Wynn's supermarket and buy some of the good rice." So I go down there. Oh my word. They have a aisle of rice. I mean, they literally have 40, 50 different types of rices, but there's a rice called jasmine rice, okay? That's a type. So they make lots of different versions of it. There's some with elephants on it, some that's got dragons on it, but it says jasmine rice, and it has a smell to it, and it smells kind of like popcorn, but you can eat it. You just cook it and eat it without anything on it. It's not like this crap weed as Americans that doesn't have any flavor to it. It's just
I
bland.
tried that once.
Good jasmine rice, and it's sticky rice. It's really good, and you can get a 20-pound bag for about $20.
I tried jasmine rice about a year ago because I looked at it as an alternative to supposedly I heard exactly what you said. And I couldn't, it's just me, but I couldn't really taste any difference.
You can't smell it when it's cooking?
Yeah. Now, maybe I just got bad stuff. I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, going down to the Asian supermarket, you can get cheap, really high-quality rice because that's their staple. And it's good stuff. You buy a 20-pound bag of rice, and then what I do is I have a food saver, and I just suck it up into bricks in the food saver bags, make bricks out of it.
Yeah, if you have an ethnic grocery store in your town or not too far by, that's usually the best place to go.
What's up, Stone Guy?
Yeah, it's
What's up, Stone Guy?
Well, we're talking about short-term prepping, which has kind of just turned into medium prepping too. But what?
Well, Stone Guy had the great Atlanta. Stone Guy had the great Atlanta freeze last year, so.
Yeah, he has like an inch of snow.
Right. Hey, it was 3 inches.
Oh.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Perfect. No, I think, obviously, I think short-term prepping would be a more realistic goal for everyone.
Yep.
I think, when you get into long-term and buckets and buckets of food, and people are like, oh, that just seems overwhelming to people, and I think that's a big turnoff. But short-term prepping is easily obtainable. Not very expensive, and I think just a priority in everyone's life.
Yeah, and
should be a priority.
The thing about short-term prepping, over time, it can turn into long-term prepping.
And I want to say this: we got a Costco membership the other day because they just opened up one by us, and I wasn't prepping on purpose, but dude. We came home and we had so much crap we didn't have enough room for it all. Those go-go squeeze applesauces for the kids, enough fruit snacks to choke an elephant. It was a lot of stuff, but it's stuff we eat on a regular basis. We're just buying it in such huge amounts of bulk that it's pretty cool because you're getting the stuff you want, but you're just buying a lot of it. You're like, oh, I'm saving money, and you got the wife and stuff on board with it. It's not like, hey, honey, I'm going to order MREs off the internet and get them delivered. It's just like, oh, let's get a 12-pack of this thing of beans because we'll save money. It's really a way to kind of sucker the spouse into the whole prepping thing without her knowing it.
Yeah,
Well,
there's. I was going to say, there's a few things. Oh, go ahead, Daniel. Okay, well, a few things that we haven't brought up yet are if you do have a generator, the amount of gas you have on hand, and I've got a few other things too, but that's going to start off with. Now, if you have a generator, how many gallons of gas do you think you're going to need for that short term of a month?
10.
Only 10 gallons?
Well, when you said a month, well, that's not short term. I don't consider a month short term. I think of short term as like a week or less.
Nah, you're different.
We've decided a month is as short as we're willing to go. Still.
Yeah, I was thinking a week.
No, that's a max for a short term.
I'm doing 30 days.
Yeah. Yep. 2 weeks we think is the minimum for a short term, and 30 days.
Well,
is the max.
then in that case, I would say two gallons for every day, or maybe you could get away with a gallon a day.
No. What about those
As
with
much as
electric wells, electric
Homeland
heat?
Security told me. I'll keep. Otherwise, I'm a terrorist.
But I'm serious about those with water wells. They operate off of electricity. What they different than what somebody who's off of city water might need. And those with electric heat and those with gas heat are going to have two different amounts of electricity they're going to need off that.
Well, when you're talking that kind of stuff, typically generators in emergency are just for running, necessary items. If you're talking about plugging up a central heat and air unit, running stuff like that, that's a much bigger generator, and obviously, yeah, you're going to need way more fuel.
In January, it gets really cold.
Well,
Yep.
I mean,
Still, guy doesn't realize that when the temperature is -17 and that's a high for the day.
yeah, I guess you guys do have to plan a little different. And honestly, if I was in a situation that you guys are in, I think that may be a really good thing to consider one of those generators that's actually plugged into your house, like built on as part of the house. It usually sits outside the house, and it's actually wired into the main breaker box, so it would basically run your whole house. But that's a huge investment versus.
Yeah, another huge investment would be like a wood stove system in your house.
Yeah. Well, here's my situation. I live in a house that I have natural gas for heat, but it requires electricity to run the pumps to circulate the water to heat the house. So I don't have to draw a whole lot of electricity to run those pumps, but I do need electricity for my water supply. So, I've got wells. So
Yeah, see,
if I ran out, the worst case happens that we lose, our city water supply, I can go to my well. But if I'm without electricity, I can't run my well either. So.
Yeah, that's a big difference because, see, not only am I on city water, but I have a natural gas water heater. So as far as the water is concerned, in just strictly an electric situation where there's no power, I'm set for water and hot water. So
How's the
really,
city going to pump it to you?
what?
How is the city going to pump you water if there's no power?
Well, I guess if you're talking like a massive citywide outage, I don't know. I think that's gravity fed.
I mean, if your town has no water, that includes your municipality.
Well, that's
not just.
I think it's gravity pressure. I don't know if.
Yeah, normally it is, but let's say the main water line bursts.
Well then, yeah, you throw that wrench into the mix, and then you definitely have to have stored water, and then I would go to something like those tub bladders.
Even the ones that are gravity fed from the towers, they use pumps to pump the water up into the tower. They're not used.
Yeah.
Well, then, yeah, I've never considered. I guess I'm speaking of like a general area being without power, because we've, like take for instance the snowstorm deal. There was, 60,000 people without power, but they still were pumping. We still had water, I guess, because the main part of the water treatment facility or whatever that thing's called had electricity. I'm sure they have backup generators and big, huge industrial generators to run stuff like that for the city, I would imagine.
Yes, they do. But here's a good example. The power grid that went out, when was that? 2004. I think when the power grid went out on the East Coast, I mean, it affected everything from the East Coast to Chicago. And that, there's only so much fuel that even the government has to be able to run, generators to supply, their water, filtration plants. So there's a situation, there's always some situation like that where you're under strict water conservation, where you can only, have there's only going to be water in your area for an hour.
Right. Yeah, that's
so
a great
get
point.
all you got.
Well, I guess for me, for my provisions, if you will, as far as water's concerned, and I'm sure I don't even have enough. I know I don't have enough in a long-term situation. Other than the cases and cases of bottled water, I do have one of those tub bladder things, and then I've got a couple of those big, like the 5-gallon camping. They're like they're like plastic, containers. They're 5 gallons, and I've got a few of those. So I mean, I think if you really sat back and think about it, the amount of water that you would need in a long-term situation, I don't think that's feasible to be able to store in an average home.
No, but short term. That's what we're talking short term.
The thing with those bladders that you for the bathtub too is you got to make sure you do it in advance, and not in advance, but you got to know that okay, I'm going to fill this thing up, and
Yeah.
from what I understand, there's obviously you could probably use them again, but they say they're single use.
Yeah, and it's like, how are you going to know when you're about to run out of water pressure that you can do it in advance?
Exactly. I mean, if the power, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, but I definitely think they're an excellent thing that takes up zero space, but could provide you with how many gallons? 100 gallons?
I mean, if something happens while you're at work, and you think it's just a regular outage, so you keep working the rest of the day, you get home 6 hours later, but now the gravity drain systems, since the pumps aren't on,
Yep.
other people have already used the amount of pressure that was available, static pressure in the line, so now the pressure is down 0 psi.
Right. And what's that? I forget the number right off, but I want to say, I don't know who did the study, but there was a study put out there, and it was, I want to say it was 5 gallons, that they say that it's 5 gallons per day for like toilet hygiene and drinking is basically what you would consume. And I don't know, I think that's right. It may have been 3, but I think it was, I want to say 5.
That's if you're using at the same rate as you are in normal times now. You're taking a big
Right.
bath, because we all do wastewater. I think anybody who says they don't is probably lying. But we all waste.
I do conserve water. I will say that. I flush the toilet once a day unless I have a bowel movement. That's when I have a bowel movement, yep.
Wait, you leave your piss in the toilet and keep pissing in the same piss water until you flush?
Yes.
Oh, that's gross, dude.
But during emergency times, the old saying, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down.
Yeah, that's the old.
I didn't want to say it.
That's the Caribbean motto. Everywhere in the Caribbean.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I was the only one to know that.
Yeah. The reason I do it because it's cheap.
Well, yeah, if you're paying for water like that, I would do the same thing.
I guess when you have to buy all those Warhammers, yeah.
No, it does save a lot of water though. I've got a 5 gallon tank, so flushing is 5 gallons every time.
you got a huge freaking tank.
Holy shit, what do you got? Like a
That's
That's
you're not
big-
saving water.
fucking toilet?
That's the old school one, man.
Yeah, those are the old
The
school
luxury
tanks.
toilet.
I thought they were all like 1.6 gallons now.
They are now. We're not forced to change them.
I think the feds are going to come raid
You
your
call
house for
yourself
your
a
toilet.
conservationist.
You're not forced to change them. So if I were to flush my toilet, say I had to use it 7 times a day,
Al
I'm
Gore's
wasting
going
a
to
lot
come.
more gallons than I am
Flush
flushing
your
it once.
Well, no shit. If you got a 5, Jesus, man, that's literally the porcelain throne.
Well, your balls must be swimming when you take a dump in that. I got one of those in my place here. I'm in a condo, and it's crazy. Everybody's like, I broke your toilet. I go, no, there's just like 5 gallons in there. It takes a while to get the momentum going, to get the whirlpool. It's so, the thing is, it's like, no, I think it's backed up. I'm like, no, it's just it's like a
Crazy.
1980s toilet.
Yeah, well, there's a good reason to have them because in reality, when those water conserving toilets came out, they work like crap.
Yeah, you do have to spend the money to get there. They have there's ratings for toilets, and you have to spend like $300, $350 to get one that's got it can flush like 8 golf balls. That's the test.
You can also get them where they're pressurized.
Yeah.
Take an
I'm just gonna say, you gotta flush my toilet. Yeah,
his toilet.
I had to flush
What do you
my
think of that
toilet
stone
7
guy, huh?
times.
What'd you say?
everything down.
You drinking the water out of the back of your toilet.
Oh, fuck that.
So, is it true that you can't flush gold then? Is that true?
I will say that if you need water, you can drink the water out of the back of your toilet. It's not the most pleasant idea, but it's perfectly fine. There's no intermixing of that
It's
water.
going there
and-
first. It's just so stagnant and gross, and it's right above your ass.
Yeah. It seems like it's such a bad idea, but it is perfectly fine to do.
What was that? You can't flush gold?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I don't
What do you
know
mean?
if it's a
Too
myth
heavy?
or not. I don't want to test it.
You were talking about
Well,
the
go
density of gold that it wouldn't make
Well,
it through the...
I've got a dime that's been in my toilet for about a month. I don't want to go in there after. It just keeps coming back.
I'd like to know.
I think what happened was I was on my couch in my underwear and it stuck to my ass, and then when I went to the toilet, it fell off into the toilet. And I was like, what the hell was that? And I looked
Shit.
back and
What
I'm
are you
like,
on stripping again?
There's
Rick?
nothing here, man.
Points at you.
freaking dime there.
Shooting out dimes, huh?
This is interesting.
I'm going to say this the next time you're short on money and you're really hungry for a package of ramen, you'll be like, I've got 6 cents here. I need a dime. Oh, let's go to the toilet and get it.
In the toilet area. What are you gonna do? Use the brush to fish it out? That's even grosser.
Where did this gold thing come about?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. What did you mean you can't flush gold? You mean that literally like what I'm saying?
I have no idea.
Oh, you're making it up.
So is that how you? Is that like a poor man's way to pan for gold? You just throw buckets of dirt in your toilet and flush
No,
it?
I thought I heard once that you couldn't flush gold. Like it
From-
would stay there if you flushed your toilet.
You heard it
The
from
wedding ring.
I can't remember. It's not important.
I just
Well, I
can't
think
of any
obviously
idea
anything
panning for
anything
gold.
heavy and dense like that would sink and probably wouldn't be the water swirl wouldn't be forceful enough to push it through.
Here's a good way to test it. Grab some lead, from a bullet or something like that, drop it in the toilet, see if it flushes.
Yeah, because gold's heavier than
That's
that.
what I mean. I didn't want to test it. I'm gonna go.
Well, like I said, dimes in there. There was a screw in there. I can remember in my brain for some reason once. The thing just kept swirling around. It disappeared for a couple days, and there's the screw again.
But I want to hit on this fuel thing just real quick and change subjects before we lose too many viewers. For fuel here, for me, I figured it would be about 25 gallons of fuel for my
Yeah, I think
situation.
I think, well, Larry, again, if we're talking a standard generator, like everybody's familiar, like the little roll-on Honda 3-outlet generators,
I'm not.
I get nothing on flushing gold, by the way. Just gold.
I mean,
fish.
Young guy, how many watt generator are you referring to? I mean, because they come from.
Yeah, no, I think it's like a
Up to
5. Yeah, I think it's the one I'm familiar with. I think is between 5 and 700. I think.
Because that's not enough for a hairdryer.
Well,
Well, that's
then,
why they say
then I,
you
then
gotta
I
get
have
a
the
good
number
amperage
wrong.
one.
Oh, okay.
How many gallons a day does that thing? How many hours does a gallon of gas last on one of those?
Well, that's what I was
I
about.
don't know.
I guess it would depend on the amperage or the
Yeah.
wattage or whatever. But the standard like
The little
generators,
stuff.
the generators you see like at the fair, hooked up to the little food trucks and shit. They're about
They're like
one
the
of
size of
those-
a big cooler. Yeah.
Right, there you
Decent
go.
size. They might have like a metal rack on the outside to protect it. And,
Right.
yeah, like a big motor. Yep.
That would be enough
I don't
to be
know
able
what
to.
that.
If you can plug in your refrigerator and let it run a couple cycles to keep your food cool, and then unplug that, and then you could plug in your computer or whatever device to charge, and then unplug that, and you could, what I'm saying, you could plug in different
Well,
shit.
realistically, too, what do you need it for? If we're 3 months into the apocalypse here, maybe your fridge is being used. You could use it for, to cook still with electric stoves.
Right.
But that would take a lot of amperage too, or microwave.
Getting heat and getting water and maintaining any refrigeration that you might still have left. Because I'm assuming refrigerated items would be eaten first.
Right.
I mean, that'd be the smart thing to do.
You know what I
Illuminated
heard?
TV.
You know what I was shocked about? It was on the National Geographic thing. It's on YouTube. They post their. It was something called like, "Would you survive the zombie apocalypse?" And I think it's a little longer, but it was National Geographic and it was official scientists and shit. But they said that when the power goes out, that after 4 hours, that you should eat, or that after 4 hours the food in your fridge would be bad if the temperature got, I think it was 42 degrees. If it was above 42 degrees for any extended period of time.
That's like there's like the Goldilocks zone where nothing grows.
Right.
But once you get above 42,
Right.
is where things start.
And I thought it was.
Be able
I
to-
honestly thought it was way longer. Like I thought you could
Yeah,
leave
me too.
as long as you left your fridge shut, that your shit would be good for like 8 to 12 hours. And according to them,
Well, I
it was
would
only
also-
4 hours.
I would also shift some of that stuff right into the freezer. You know what I mean? Like so it could be that longer, or because like if you put a pound of meat in there, it's not going to freeze if it's not running for hours, and it's definitely going to be better for it. And I bet that would last overnight, wouldn't you think?
Right, like your eggs and your cheese and
Yeah.
and the stuff, yogurts and stuff like that are real heat sensitive.
I have a related question for you, Stone Guy, in regards to emergencies, but it is a little bit off topic, just slightly. And do you have any concern over the CDC being in Atlanta now with the Ebola victims being there as well?
Ebola.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, it is kind of a big thing. It's always been a big thing, or a big consideration in the Atlanta area because it is the home of the CDC, and so amongst the people in the community, they're always kind of like, oh, what if something happens? What if that place ever, something happened and all those viruses got out, but. I mean, there's a lot more deadly shit than Ebola in
Oh, yeah.
CDC there, and
Exactly. I mean, they have samples of the plague.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of those things. It's like if you think about it, you'd move out of the state, but
But Stone Guy is hard, and he's like, I'm going to be at ground zero for
no,
the
fuck
apocalypse.
that, dude. If I don't,
What if
Bring
somebody
the
just
zombies.
drove a Mack truck into that place?
I mean,
Put a big
I kind
hole
of
in
view
the-
it
in
as
the laboratory.
oh, dude, that place is like Fort Knox. You're not getting in that place.
Okay. Well, that's
like,
good.
the CDC is like nature's version of a nuclear reactor. I mean, unless it's just taken care of perfectly, the chances of things going to hell in a handbasket are high.
Because I always read these stories about they haphazardly just keep things unlocked and open and accessible to.
Can you hand me the peanut butter? Wait, that's the Ebola. That's the peanut butter.
Great Poupon.
Pardon me, do you have any plague?
And are we still at just 2 victims in the U.S. right now?
Yes.
Oh wait, they were brought into the U.S. from. They
Are
were.
they still alive?
Yeah, supposedly they said there was some.
They're
well, it's
recovering?
been a week, so they
They're
probably
recovering?
should be either
Well,
dead
no,
or
they were
good.
saying that there was some new, not
Sure.
not necessarily an antibody, but there was some new drug that's responsible for these people still being alive. So
Oh, I don't
they've
like that. That's
they've been
now
working-
the government can save us. I don't like this.
they've been working on
Yeah.
Now they just
Come get your
exposed us.
Ebola
They
vaccine.
let us know. They said, "Oh, we're bringing Ebola in," and now they've got this miracle new drug. It's a setup.
well, and I think it was a
I smell a conspiracy.
some kind of plant-based something or another. But I read a story on it because typically, yeah, you're dead pretty quick with that Ebola.
Yeah, it's about a 3-day
But
gestation,
suddenly
and
they
the
have a
worst
cure
one's
for it.
90%.
Well, these people were sick for more than 3 days before they ever even got here, which makes me wonder, were they already past the point of probably surviving anyway? I mean, because even with a 90% death rate, maybe they were both part of the 10% that were surviving it.
Well, here's the
Well, it's
thing.
Ebola
They were
Zaire.
from
It wasn't that variety, but
a country where they were in relatively good health. Those in Africa are, they don't get the nutrients they need, etc. So they're not, they're more susceptible to the disease than the doctors were. They're better fed, etc.
Well, I'm sure they had vaccine. I mean, obviously they probably didn't have an Ebola. There's not an Ebola vaccination, but I'm sure they had all sorts of vaccinations and shit like that.
Yeah. But I got another thing here. Batteries.
You never have too many batteries.
Yeah, batteries, and well, if you're using other sources for light, like a kerosene light or candles, having enough of those on hand to last you.
Candles are probably like a number one, like cheapest, easiest prep item ever.
Yeah, but the one thing, they are also very dangerous if left unattended. So you definitely need the right kind of system set up where you can, if you have to leave them to go fetch water or something like that.
They can be a source in a small room. They can be.
I will say this: one candle. I will say this: one candle in your car in the winter, although you're not going to be warm, it will keep you alive in winter if you break down in your car somewhere.
And you just crack the window.
Yeah, candles are good.
I tell you what, I
need to
put
crack
in
the
my,
window with a candle.
in my bug out bag. I think everybody should have some in your bug out bag in case you've never thought of this.
Just a little tea light.
Tea light. That's exactly what I was about to say. You take tea lights and you can fit 4 tea lights in a Ziploc bag, like horizontal across the bottom of the Ziploc, and then fold your sandwich bag over, and you'll have 4 tea lights, sealed up in that little bag. It's perfect.
What's a tea light?
It's like a little tiny candle, a little round candle.
It's in like a little tin.
Okay, yeah.
It's got a piece of tin foil like base, and then it
To
can
keep
float
your
in water.
tea hot. Yeah.
Oh, like the kind
The kind they put
you get at Christmas
potpourri.
Eve when you
The
go
kind
to
you put in a
The
sconce and hang on the
cheapest
wall.
many things ever. They only last. They don't last long, but you can.
Yeah.
I like those little votives too that you can put in little.
But
mini
the cool
cups.
thing about a
Yeah, my
candle and a
wife
tea
has
light
way
is
too many.
if you
I
could
gotcha.
light that, tea light, and then you have a hands-free little flame to either start a larger fire or to, if you were having to use that flame to melt something or cook, what I mean? There's like having tea lights or
Yeah, they're
so
cool.
many uses for little tea lights.
Yep.
I
And
bought
then
a
you can even use the tin
at
for
a
something
restaurant supply store
later.
and just put some saran wrap around it and put it in one of my totes. So I got 48 of those little suckers, and it's kind of like a general purpose thing. Do you want it for light? Do you want it for heat? And they're very tiny. They don't last very long, but when you're not using it, you blow it out.
Well, I use them to start fires a lot because you can use a lighter to light the tea light, obviously, and
Right.
then you can set that down as like your base, and then just build your little teepee or start slowly getting that other kindling
Yeah, you can pour
going.
the wax out too, like
Right.
little pelts, and
with
just
that
put the
tea
wax
light.
in.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
man, tea lights are a must in every bug out bag, I think.
Yep.
So, batteries you definitely need. Multiple packs on hand. Again, cycle through them. The reason I bring that up is you need batteries for your flashlight because, right now it's starting to get dark pretty early.
Well, you can use a candle for that, but what you really need batteries for is like the radio. Find out what's going on in your area.
Yeah, well, I was going to bring
Right.
that up too. But flashlights are a great way to have instant light where you don't have to have fumble for your lighter, then try to light the candle without burning yourself. You got instant light with a flashlight.
Does anybody still use an oil lamp?
I do. I have a kerosene lamp that I still use, and they work awesome.
No, I'm scared of those things, like the
I
old
always
Coleman.
liked them.
I'm actually looking at buying one of those Mr. Buddy heaters that supposedly are safe to use like inside of a tent.
I'm looking to buy that Coolest Cooler Kickstarter. That guy got like $1.5 million so far.
What?
Yeah,
$1.5 million from Jesus?
I forget what I didn't look at it recently, but
I need to come up with a
Maybe
good
higher.
idea to get some money.
It's got
Yeah, but-
Wi-Fi and radio.
But we were talking about, preps earlier, and winter heat is something that I am not properly prepped for, and that's why I mentioned that I forget if it's called Mr. Buddy heater or what it's called, but it can run off either a little Coleman 1-quart propane thing, or you can run it off the same size propane as you do your grill.
Oh
It's
my god.
Mr. Heater. It's a little buddy by Mr. Heater, and there's one with a single ceramic panel and one with a double. The double's definitely better.
Yes.
I got one of them, and they run off those little Coleman. You can get at Lowe's. You can buy the 4 canisters of the Coleman fuel for like $10,
Right.
and they last about 2 hours each on that thing, and they produce some good heat. And it's totally. I brought it to the range, and put it underneath the picnic table where we set up, and shoot from the picnic table, and it just kept the heat coming up from underneath the picnic table.
Yeah, because
But you can put them on the propane tanks from the grill, and then you get the.
Oh, how funny is they're saying, I just flipped it to Fox News, and it says pathology of Ebola, secret serum likely to have saved victims. So they were given the experimental drug. I mean, how funny is that they were just talking about that, and it's on Fox News right now.
So they'll probably grow a tail or something, though, because it is experimental.
and it is genetic, from my understanding. Is on the radio station out of Chicago today, they were talking about how it works is that it goes after the DNA material of the virus itself.
That's great.
But that may be effective. But going after the human DNA versus the virus DNA, that's kind of scary stuff.
Maybe they'll become superheroes.
They might.
More like super villains.
Ebola man.
Yeah, or you, hell, if you're talking about changing the, you might be cured of Ebola and then get Down syndrome or something,
Well, I mean, I don't know. Anything that modifies DNA to me is of concern. I'm not against that.
That's what I'm saying, because the DNA, the Down syndrome is like a one little chain of DNA that didn't connect.
Right.
That's why all Down syndrome people kind of look alike, is because it's that same one little chain of DNA that didn't complete.
In an adult, it would have no effect because you're already developed. But in a child that's still physically growing, it would have an effect.
It's the same with an orangutan, right? Or one of them apes are like one chromosome away from a human.
Right, yeah, the orangutan.
Am I missing anything in short-term prepping?
What about security? Did you cover that?
Well, shelter.
Yeah, firearms.
We skipped over shelter because we figured we were bugging in, right?
There's no need for shelter. I mean, this is the type where you're staying at home. It's either something like a regional or local thing where you have to be self-dependent for.
Security. Next logical thing.
Yep. Thank you, security.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're all good here, but for anybody else, is a way to be able to, say it as a regional thing, and you dealing with a situation where, bad people are coming around and just trying to stay alive by stealing your supplies. So, what do? They break in and they either, rough you up or, beat you with a club. What's your defense to that? And this is where the firearm becomes the equalizer.
Force multiplier, as Southern Prepper would say.
Yeah, so it's definitely something, you're going to have your firearm, just like you'd use in a home security situation. So there's nothing new there. We don't really need to talk about it that much. I think we're preaching to the choir, but again, having enough ammo on hand, because we might have to do this more than once if it's really, really bad in a short-term situation. So, but I really don't think it's a huge problem for any of us here in this chat, or anybody that we're talking to, actually.
Yeah. And Southern Prepper 1 is the expert for Doomsday Preppers, I still believe. There, when they do our survival panel experts, He is
Oh, sterno cans. I didn't even think of that. Some guy in Sandy put something about sterno cans. Those are awesome. You guys know what that is? What sterno cans are?
Yeah, I know exactly what it is. I found some old sterno in the cupboard that was mostly dried out.
Yeah, sterno cans.
And that's still burnt overnight.
Yeah, well, because see, sterno cans last a long. You could actually seriously cook something over a sterno can.
Yep.
They're like 2 hours.
Yeah, this thing actually burnt overnight. This whole can of sterno, I didn't think it was safe to use anymore, so I took it outside in a metal coffee can, and when I went to bed, I lit it up, and it was still burning the next morning. And yes, it was safe. It wasn't going to roll over and get knocked down. It was nice out. So actually, it was actually sprinkling out when I did it, and it burned through the whole night. It was kind of cool. So I think we covered it all, unless you guys got something else to add.
No, I'm waiting. I'm ready for G-Web's chat.
Oh, then I should keep this going for a little while.
You were chatting to him. I'm not paying attention to this.
He was gonna do it before G-Web or before Cork, but then Cork started up, so G-Web said he would do it after.
Hey, last week I didn't have a chat because it was the second. The week before that I didn't have a chat because G-Webs ran long. So
He needs to work harder next time.
I know. You were pissed. You were like, if I don't get to do my chat, I'm gonna go watch football. Fuck all you guys.
Pretty much. I wasn't pissed. I'm just saying that's what I was gonna do.
I mean,
you were
still
pissed.
participated in the most of them.
No, I wasn't pissed. I was
you
actually
were mad. Just admit it.
No, I
You were
wasn't
butthurt.
I would have saved this topic because I think it's a great topic to talk about anytime until next week.
And it was a good topic. I give you that.
Every once in a great while I come up with a good topic. So, with that said, and on that note, to steal Never Enough's quote there, I'm going to end it. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.